Okay, so thank you. I think that was that kind of music I was hearing for the first time to welcome technology people. So that was really a very pleasant change, I would say. So good morning, everyone. So as a moderator of the session, we will be doing a balancing act between development and operations. We'll try to do justice to your time, which you are basically bringing to us this morning. So let's work on building bridges between the teams so that we are able to balance stuff between development and operations, and ensuring the security is one of the key goals for any teams. So without investing a lot of time on myself, I would just quickly get straight to one of the key questions which are typically asked on the alignment, right? So I'll go with this question to start with, to start with lady in the panel, Miss Veena. So at one spectrum you have different agile methodologies which are there, and at other spectrum you have basically DevOps practices, right? So how does this alignment between agile methodologies and DevOps practices influence the efficiency of application development, and what key benefits have organizations experienced as a result of this? So the Murphy's law is at work.
Okay.
What can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Vishwajit. Yeah. So for me, see, agile is a methodology. I think already Vishwajit mentioned as a framing the question. So methodology means it is a kind of a framework. So DevOps is a practice, which is what he's telling, and yes, that is true. So between this agile and DevOps, so what is bridging the business and how it is impacting the business? So that is mostly important for us to take away. So when I say agile is methodology and a framework, so it has to be practiced. So when I say DevOps is a practice, agile is also a practice because it's a framework. So unless and until if you don't practice, you will not unveil the information or the intent of what exactly agile is. So when we do that, so what is exactly the organizations or the businesses benefiting from these two practice between the framework? So when I say agile, so which is basically taking from the demand to solutioning to delivery and to operations. So this is a life cycle, basically what we call a very simple life cycle. So when we do this life cycle, there are a lot of dynamics involved in this. So that means, so what is the impact on this? So when we bring both agile and DevOps together, so most important impact is the collaboration. So which is very important. And the synergy at levels we collaborate with business and also with our internal cross-functional, how we start learning on the journey. It is a continuous learning. Basically this framework itself is a continuous learning. And also while doing this continuous learning, we will also ensure that we will also bring a lot of continuous improvements into this. So, and most important on top of this, it sets the enterprise vision to the organization and also to the business so that we unveil the entire vision. So what is the company's vision, what we need to exactly deliver to the expectation of the customer. So when I say customer, exactly between agile and DevOps, we bring that customer centric, customer first. So always we go for customer first, right? So the customer centricity is what we bring when we bring this agile and DevOps together. So with that, at least I want to hand over and I want to allow other speakers also comment on that.
Sure. Thank you. I think that was really insightful. So I would like to go to Mr. Mahesh. Obviously his experience on managing engineering team and delivering products himself. What is his take on this point of alignment between Agile and DevOps, and what benefits he has seen with his experience working with varied teams?
Thanks for that. Hey, thanks for that. So yeah, like I started working at ThoughtWorks initially, and then I moved to Gojek, where we actually built out an engineering team from scratch, and now I'm working with Pine. what I think is it's actually not like two really different things. I don't think these two things can exist in silos per se. One of the key tenets of agile methodology, or like the agile manifesto, if you read, like it's about working software over comprehensive documentation. But what does working software actually mean? It actually means that you should get something on your machine or something in a repository is actually not working, something that is actually in production serving live traffic, and you're ensuring that you can actually see what's happening with it and all of that. That is working software. So how do you get there? One is basically the basic things like CI, then on top of that actually teams owning up the end-to-end life cycle of the software itself, right from conceptualizing to actually getting it to production, maintaining it on their own, as well as monitoring, alerting the logs, ensuring that you have the right tools to actually run the software in production, that is what working software means. And that is where I think Agile and DevOps are actually like kind of hand in glove. They are, I would say that is how closely they are related.
Yeah, that's I think very important point which Mr. Mahesh made. It's obviously, it can't work on silos, right? Even if you are like doing an agile implementation or you're doing a DevOps implementation, it has to be basically go hand in hand to get the productivity. So with that, I will move on to another expert in site reliability engineering, which we have been fortunate enough to have him in the panel. So according to you, Davinder, in the realm of CI/CD workflows, how does automation, AI and ML contribute to enhancing testing efficiency and reliability, and what are potential limitations or pitfalls associated with it?
It's really a great question, and I think everybody is right now working on the AI, ML, and understanding the business value of these. So one of the things which I have seen, and in our company also we are working on that, is how we can use different algorithms to make our for the complete CI/CD pipeline, test case automation, and during the test cases, what we can analyze. So there is NLP algorithm, sequence to sequence algorithm, which we are using to analyze all the test cases based on the past experience, collecting all the data, and then we are introducing our data and using top of that AI mechanism so that we can understand the business, and when we are adding new test cases or deploying into the production, so before it is going to worst, we will come to know, and all complete code coverage, everything will be taken care much in advance. So in the automation side, so here definitely wherever you have the good things, bad things as well, but it needs a lot of research. A lot of proper documentation data you should have. Those data you should use properly. If that algorithm, you are not using proper data, which actually in our first phase it happened, so your test cases results will not as appropriate as you want. So your vision and things will be very much clear, which algorithm you are using, so all those things will be, you have to take care.
Thank you, Mr. Davinder. I think that was really helpful. So I think we are just getting skewed on the left side of it. So that was not really planned, but we are naturally shifting left. So like we do in Agile. So I'll just try to shift right a bit to go to Mr. Swadhin, Director of Engineering at Byju's. So there's a lot of talk about AI and ML, right? So is there a lot? Is there really the value coming in, or is just like talk of the town? What kind of value you see as per your experience?
Hey everyone, good morning. So very important question. As everyone is familiar of AI, things are getting replaced with AI. So first question which came in my mind and everyone's mind, that can AI replace DevOps? That is the first question. While with my experience and my colleagues' experience, what we thought would be better is AI becomes colleague of DevOps, can help you on security, have a better deployment cycle, to find out threats in advance. I work for an education company where you don't know the number of students going to join your live classes. There are millions of students. So finding out that what will be the traffic at the certain hours, definitely AI can help you using the past data, writing the better test cases. And also I work with e-commerce companies where the sale is going to start for maybe the bigger brand like Apple, and everyone is coming like crazy. So you don't know how much you are going to scale, and you cannot scale infinitely, right? So there AI comes into pictures which reads the past data for certain brand and help you figure out what will be the right scale for the traffic at certain hours. So definitely AI is very important, including ML, and it's not replaceable. It can definitely going to help the DevOps.
So that's definitely, and as I fondly like to say, right, about automation, if you automate a mess, you get an automated mess, right? So you need to be very sure about what you are automating. So with this, I'll just quickly go again, shifting left as we do in Agile. So I'll go to Mr. Arun and would like to hear his 2 cents on this.
Thank you, Vishwa. So already Davendra and Swati has shared some insights about how automation is helping us, especially in the DevOps area. And not only in DevOps, automation and the AI is entering into all aspects of software development now. So in our experience, in case of testing, what I can see that is a basic case. You have user stories and acceptance criteria. So how AI natural language processing models can create test cases automatically from this. This is the basic use case that we are using in our products. And also, for example, when it comes to automation, so we hear about gitops many times. So what exactly gitops does? So you have the exactly same infrastructure environment that is automated, and it can be deployed to multiple clouds, public clouds, or multiple data centers in different regions, only by just accepting a pull request or a merge request. So that's the kind of automation now we are living in, and we are going to experience in future as well. And that doesn't mean it does not have any pitfalls. So currently we say about AI, where AI is, I feel that it's not mature enough to give the exact results what we are expecting. So there is expert intervention required as of now. In future, we can expect that much more accuracy from the AI side. And other challenge is that now the traditional workforce, that may not be enough, because we need a skilled workforce when it comes to AI and this automation part. That's the other challenge now organization are facing, and that it's interesting point for everyone for here, because we could learn further on the AI side, automation side, that will increase our value in the market. Thank you.
Moving from one automation aspect of AI to other, which is obviously technology, which is primarily, there's a lot of talk of the town, is the low code and no code. So I sometimes myself struggle to understand the difference between low code and no code. So we'll get, I have expert in the panel, Mr. Tulasi, who is a senior director at Tata Click. So I will put that question this straight to him. So low code and no code platforms are there today. They have gained popularity and they are easing things up, but how they are actually impacting the coding process. Because at the end of it, we know that we used to write code and we check it in right into the version control systems. But now we have platforms where we are actually maybe doing something on the UI, maybe writing bits and pieces of the code. So what are the implications of these technologies in terms of the productivity and also in terms of innovation, which is bringing citizen developers to write things, right? So I would like to really hear from Mr. Tulsi around this.
Thank you, Vishwa. Thank you, everyone. Let me break this question into 2 parts. One is low code. So when I was in Flipkart, one of the head of the process was asking me, there is some hiccups here, I couldn't figure it out, what is the process? He said, I can write a process for you, I can figure it out, write a software. He said, no, I don't have time. So he gave me a requirement that I should have authentication, authorization, field level, validation, and then the workflow. So we found out a couple of low-code scenarios. Then I gave him, by next week, the head of the process guy implemented almost 20 processes and people are already using it. The cost, it's not about the cost. The way now he does not have big problems. He has smaller problems which he can solve. So the other way I can say for the low code is, see for example, the current Tata Click is an e-commerce company. We have so many systems, so many processes. The data sits between multiple places. And every time there is an issue or something, right, we have to tell the product guy, this is where it is happening. So with low code, what we have done is we have exposed the APIs to the product guys. All they have to do is visualize something and then drag and drop. The other advantage we have seen is now for the freshers or someone who has joined us, right, we start up with the low code because now they get to see how the others are thinking in a modular way, functional ways, and the way they think has changed. So I think low code and no code are it's like they help you to, cut the or increase the process, or it enriches the team. And people, so most of the time, when you go and talk to someone, this is what I am visualizing, by the time you explain, but with the low code, right, you just drag and drop. And bam, it is there. Oh, this is what I want. Can you add a couple of fields? It is done. So it's going to increase the value. Thank you.
So with that brings us to, I think, one pertinent question, right? So how do you bring it into the development life cycle, right? So because when I have basically written code myself, and we use to have version control system where we checked in, right? So I'll go with this question to in continuation to that, to Mr. Ujjwal, who is Director of Engineering at M-Pocket. So I would like to understand on this aspect. Obviously the productivity and all Mr. Tulsi has covered really well. So how does this impact the whole development process which is there, and how does it really impact the DevOps aspect of it?
Thank you, Vishwa. So I would just like to summarize what is low code and no code. See, low code is a platform which allows any user, whether it's a developer or non-technical user, to build an application with a very little amount of code. See, no code is kind of, you don't need to write any single line of code, you just drag and drop. There will be a lot of pre-built user interfaces, lot of modules, plugins, components. Generally, this whole platform will be used for rapid application development. So that means if you want to build anything faster and you want to expose your third party to multiple platform integrations, this is one of the best way and trending way of exposing your integrations to the partners. So coming back to the Vishwa's question, will it replace developers or what advantage developers? So in my view, LCNC, whatever low code, no code, will not replace developers, but will replace whatever the responsibility of developer. So that means whatever their repetitive task or manual tasks can be automated very easily with a minimal amount of time. And the developer can focus on complex problem solving. That means there is a room for innovation, there is more productivity can be brought in at the developer level. And it can be exposed to a business analyst, right? They can also drag and drop, they can also visualize things. So in my view, LCNC is gaining very heavy popularity, and a lot of organizations like Walmart, Target are already started using it, and it has a very bright future, I believe in it. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, definitely. I think there's a lot of, as I hear both of the panelists, there's a lot of productivity which these tools are bringing in, right? So, but what I think we also need to be cognizant of the fact, the amount of complexity which we are bringing in, right? So I would like Mr. Arun to give his 2 cents in terms of, if you can just highlight a bit of around the complexity, right? Productivity is for the given on these platforms, right? I don't think anybody here in the audience would doubt in terms of the productivity, but if you can highlight a bit around the complexity which is bringing in the process, obviously, is it really worth that level of complexity is what I will want to delve into.
Thank you, Vishwa. So this question is very close to my heart because I'm from Siemens, and Siemens is one of the major provider for the low-code platform Index. So this is a market leader. So we do work on the low-code applications. And Mr. Tulasi has already stressed upon the productivity part. And when we say complexity, I feel in the low-code platform, the complexity is with whoever developing the platform. Because what you need to know here is that you don't need to really care about the DevOps aspects. Because once you create an application in a low-code platform, by one click, it is automatically deployed wherever you want. And I can give a small example. We were able to build a skill development application, and the team, the regular software development team that's of Java and Angular, the traditional software development team, they have given an estimation of 1 year with 5 FTEs. So whereas we just want to try it with the low-code application, and we could develop and deploy this application in 3 months of time in 56 regions. That includes 80 countries. So the people from 80 countries were able to access this application in 3 months of time and with 3 FTEs. So in pure mathematics terms, it is actually saving 6 times or 6.66 times of the productivity. That's the kind of change the low-code and no-code platforms are bringing in. And when you say complexity, as I said in the beginning, it is with the platform. And for the end user, whoever is developing it, it is very simple. So that's why you have seen already in my previous example, 6 times productivity gain is coming. And the complexity is just understanding how the flows work inside the platform, the low-code platform, and how do you build your data model. So there are entity models available in the low-code platforms, and how we use that. And in recent development, we can see AI integrations into these platforms, low-code platforms. The market leaders mainly in the low-code platforms are Microsoft Power Apps, OutSystems, and Mendix from Siemens. So these applications already have AI integration, and when a developer goes into that, there are chatbots available that help the developer with development, and also AI models, not NLP models are available, which actually speed up the development. So this complexity for the developer is less, and the ultimate goal of these platforms are to enable the common man, that means who is not a software developer, to create a software application. That may happen in near future with the generative AI advancements. So at the same time, I just want to mention the main problem what I have faced in my teams is that the motivating developers to develop in the low-code platforms. Because what they feel is that their software development skills are hardly utilized. So this would be a motivation factor for actual software developers. However, if you are interested to create an application and create customer value fast, then low-code platforms are there for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone could have seen the passion Arun brought to this topic, right? That we could all feel that it's very close to your heart, and definitely this adds to productivity. But the amount of complexity is bring in. I will take what Arun said, but I'll just leave it audience to take a call on the. Because I as a moderator, I am not allowed to take sides, but still I have my 2 cents. I think it brings a lot of complexity in the process as well. It's at least when it comes to managing the things, right? When you are the management of it, and the other aspect of the vendor lock-in which it brings in, right? So those areas are something which definitely you have to be cognizant of the fact. So yeah, but I'll not take a lot of time on that. So that must be a food for thought for all of you. So with this, I would move to Mr. Agrim, who is head platform Mudrex, who has been instrumental of developing a lot of complex systems, and one person from the field which a lot of people love and a lot of people hate as well. So it's about feedbacks. So continuous monitoring, I think, is one of the key aspects to any of the changes which you are trying to bring in, right? So continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential in DevOps practices. But what challenges organizations face in establishing and maintaining the process effectively, and how can they overcome those challenges. I think I feel that's the crux of any initiative which you take, right? If you don't take the feedback, it just means that you're doing something and feeling good about it, right? So over to you, Mr. Agrim.
Hello. Yeah. So that is a good question, Vishwa. So continuous monitoring, we all know, right? So it's when you are deploying something and you have, a sort of dashboards, visualizations or pipelines to which you are able to see what is happening at what stage, right? And feedback loops are something which is that whatever you deployed, you get some feedback either from your team, from your end users, or from another team, like maybe a product team, maybe a business team about the numbers, or from tech team about, latency issues, anything can be the feedback, right? The problem that arises is how you create these feedback loops and how you, keep them going. So for creating feedback loops, it is very important to equip the team with the tools, right? So the tool being the continuous monitoring. So for example, let's say in your infrastructure, right, you need something to monitor. For example, you need to monitor your containers, right? So for that, you need, say you are using Grafana. So that gives a visualization to your developers who have actually written the code. Okay, my code is now, performing like this. So should I give it more resources? Should I optimize it? Should I do this? Should I do that? Same thing, your application performance monitoring, it helps you a lot, right? So all this brings in the feedback loops. Now this feedback loop is within the team only. You deployed something, now you saw that and now you're fixing it, right? But a bigger feedback loop is like when you are releasing something to an end user and your end user is giving you a live feedback. They say this feature is not working, or when I do something in a particular flow, this is not working, right? So these feedbacks, these become very important from your product point of view. So closing these loops is, I feel, is a very tedious and a very difficult process, but taking one step at a time. You just start internally first. Obviously you have your customer success team at a separate end, that is okay, but keeping it, starting within the team is the first step, so that your team is at least acquainted with this mentality that okay, we are receiving feedbacks, we need to act on it. There can be prioritization also, there can be other factors, but the mentality, when it starts building up, it ultimately you start bringing in user inputs, the end user inputs, and then it will go a long way in helping and improving your application.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So if you are not measuring something, then you are not improving, right? And one of the measurements is the feedback. So with this, I'll go quickly to Mr. Swadhin, Director of Engineering at Byju's. So what is your take in terms of bringing that continuous feedback process, and what are typical challenges organization today face when they are trying to get those feedbacks in place?
I believe that continuous monitoring is really key thing for your entire software development and cycle. It also depends on the kind of team you are. When I say kind of team you are you working on a startup where you have like 5-6 engineers, like one guy is writing code and maybe deploying and doing everything. There you'll find it's really very challenging to act on the feedback coming from the customer, while you're working for the bigger organization where the entire process is already set up, and then it makes it easier for you to implement and write sets of engineer working on the feedback. Right, so it's like depending on your team and your org. Now coming back to the monitoring, what kind of monitoring is important and how complex it is. See, when your end user is using your software, it's really very important for you to understand what's going on in production and what kind of feedback you are getting. Internally, you definitely have those feedbacks using Grafana and write sets of alerts and write sets of log, you can definitely figure it out. But your customer giving the feedback is really very important. And you can give hundreds of feedbacks, right? And you cannot act on everything. So right set of prioritization is also very important to figure out which is the low hanging which we can solve in order to give the better experience. And that's really very important. There are many tools which you can use to do that on client side, on your application, on your Learn portal. So yeah, it's really very important process, and we should definitely figure out what should be the right set of tool to use it. Yeah.
I just want to add one line over here. So recently we found one issue, like feedback we got, their pipelines are very slow. And we found that once we have the monitoring and analytics, at one time there is 100 of pipelines are running at same time. And we have found in the daily basis we have 1,000 of pipelines, means continuously it is running back to back. But then we analyze there is some peak times are there which is increasing our cost as well, because it is the same time all our runners, because it is all our in-house. So all our runners costs are keep on increasing. So what we did, we understand the time, and night time all our pipelines are, means our runners are free. So we schedule, and each team division, like this time you can run your pipelines, and it is all automatic. So you can schedule it and run it even on the night time. And more to improvise on the cost, we move on to the Kubernetes. So where it will be run, the container on that. It will one pipeline, one container, it will run, destroy, and done. So that is a help you in continuously monitoring and analytics. So you can save a lot.
Yeah, sure. I think that definitely underscores the importance of monitoring, how crucial and critical it is, right? So with that, I'll just go on to talking more in terms of the technology. GitOps has become very popular these days, right? So it has emerged as a paradigm shift of how we are basically managing our infrastructure, and also the development life cycle, how we are doing that, right? So I'll go back to Mr. Agrim with this question on GitOps has emerged as a paradigm for infrastructure management in DevOps. And how does GitOps redefine traditional approaches to infrastructure management, and what benefits it offers in terms of agility, scalability, and collaboration?
So this question is actually what I have been working on, for the past 3 to 4 years at Mudrex. So let me break this question into two parts, right? So first we'll talk about what is the dev and ops mentality, right? And then we'll try to see how does this GitOps, the thing that is the hot buzz of today, it is helping, and it has helped us out in a in a longer run. So traditionally there used to be an operations team, right, which we called an ops team. So developers, when they wrote some code, they just threw this code at an imaginary wall, and the other side of the wall there is somebody sitting and who is responsible for deployment, then managing your production servers and everything, right? But in this scenario, the developers, they don't have this visibility, right? And say if a developer wants to give extra resources, if they want to add some extra things to their deployment, they can't do it without having this ops team involved, right? So this is a very big barrier in SDLC, right? So now GitOps is basically, as a primer, 3 years back at Mudrex, it was a team of around 2 to 3 people only, engineering team, right? And we used to manually manage instances. We manually went into instances, we deployed something, then we monitored it, and if the scale came, we manually, spawned up a new instance. So this was acceptable at that time when we were, relatively less, we had a relatively less user base. But eventually we realized that this is not a scalable approach, right? As your user base increases, your scale increases, your scale becomes unpredictable. You cannot have a person sitting, a developer or an ops person sitting 24/7 looking at the traffic patterns, right? And then scaling it up, scaling down. So that is when we, looked into Terraform. So using Terraform, what it helped us is that we can spawn our infrastructure directly from your, code, right? Everybody knows about Terraform. So it helped us to quickly migrate and quickly spawn up clusters, right? So as of today, we run around 20 clusters in 3 regions, and this all has been possible. The first cluster that we deployed was very difficult because we had to learn everything. But after we deployed the first cluster, we had the script ready. Okay, this is a script. You follow these steps. Steps are very simple, and you can have another cluster in any region you want, right? So just like that, now entire infrastructure, I can legitimately say that entire infrastructure is on Git, right? You can check, anybody can check, even the developers and the infrastructure team, they can go and check, okay, this is the fingerprint of the infra that is actually deployed, which is a great help. Now anybody can contribute to that Git repo and get things deployed without having, go to a separate team and do it. And for a very niche problem statement, like, we have a lot of Kafka clusters running in. So we had the request, the tickets come in, okay, please create a topic for me, please do this replication factor, please do this. So all this is also now automated using GitOps. Now everything that we run in our infra is managed via Git repository, right? So it has made things easier. It has reduced the burden of tickets. It has reduced the burden of prioritization. It has increase the developer productivity on a very high level. The features are now being, shipped very fastly, and not the ops is no longer a blocker for people, right? So GitOps has definitely, reshaped everything, and we are very, happy to have adopted it too early in our stage, and we are, very productive with it.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Agrim. I think that's definitely something which would have enriched audience with your inputs. And so I will just, before we go to the next question, I will just quickly go to Mr. Davinder on this GitOps, right? Being head of SRE, I'm sure this is something which would be very close to your day-to-day working. So, how do you think in terms of the value it is bringing and innovation around it, and what's your take on this?
Yeah, thanks, Avim. He almost covered everything. So I remember a couple of years back when we started GitOps, my team asked a very simple question: how we can remember GitOps functionality, all those things. So I told them, just think GitOps is a boss. How it is, earlier it is imperative way to do it, now it is declarative way. So your boss, he wants to force you. So it is giving you the declarative, whatever you mention, it will be. Second, your boss has a desired state. So if you have whatever the boss has the desired state, whatever your actual state doesn't matter. So he will change with his desired state. That is the GitOps again. So a lot of benefits we got it with the GitOps when we have seen. One of the biggest problem earlier in the last company, what we have seen, we created something and somebody go and directly log into the SSH and change everything. And now our all infrastructure as a code is nothing. It will not work. It give me 100 errors when I'm redeploying something. So with the GitOps model, we found who made what changes, what is the difference on the configuration, and even we can come to know in which file, then we can identify who did that. So it helped us a lot. Then GitOps, another thing is major problem when we are deploying the infrastructure. Infrastructure, as you know, the VMs when you created, it's not operating system patches, upgrades, all those things are coming. But with the GitOps model, what we did, we deploy the complete new VM every time, which is the company standard VM with all the security patches, everything. You no need to upgrade all those things. It saves a lot of your time on that. Plus, the GitOps has a very good feature in the multi-cloud and the multi-environment, which we really using. We have the cloud onto the GCP, AWS, Alibaba. So now our GitOps model means our integration environment, sometime based on the cost, it is running on the different cloud. And we have the dev environment, staging environment, production, pre-prod, all with the simple labels are there. So you deploy based on the label, it will deploy as a dev, it will deploy on the production, it is going to deploy on the staging. So all those benefits you will get on with the GitOps model. It's really wonderful, and just call it boss. Thank you.
Yeah, that definitely gives a lot of freedom to developers. With a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility as well. So there's always a flip side of giving independence to developers, because a lot of engineering leaders are sitting with me, so I think they will resonate with me in terms of bringing the freedom. Definitely it's add a lot of value. I'm just being a bit of devil's advocate here, but with great freedom comes great responsibility. So talking about the responsibility, another important topic which brings it to us is the security part of it, right? So because DevOps has added a lot of value in terms of how quickly you go to the customer, but what it has also introduced a challenge in terms of in what shape and size you go to the customer, right? So we hear 0-day vulnerabilities very frequently these days, right? So the moment you release something and you have a major issue which comes into picture, right? So what I want to dwell now with my panelists is into embedding security at each stage of the development cycle. It has become very crucial these days because if you're releasing something, you have hackers and other people also waiting for your releases. Especially for the bigger companies, it has become a challenge. So what are some strategies for achieving this goal of continuous security, right? Obviously, continuous deployment is important, but having continuous security is important as well. So how do you bring into this into the whole development process? I will take this question to Mr. Ujjwal, who is Director of Engineering at M-Pocket. So Ujjwal, as per you, how do you really organizations deal with this challenge which is there, right? How do you bring in the continuous security in process?
So for us in M-Pocket, right, security is very important, right? It doesn't matter, like any company, security plays an important role. So what we follow is, we try to keep a secure SDLC cycle. I know it's not easy, but we have invested a lot from past 3-4 years, keeping security as a natural component in each and every cycle or phase of SDLC. So what I would like to give some practices what we follow here. So the first thing is in the requirement phase itself, we try to have a security block saying that, so the moment you have a requirement document has a security block, right? It enforces your stakeholders to think from the very early stage of SDLC. So how resilient your software is, if in case any attack comes, how quickly you can recover the software, and what are the checkpoints and techniques to be followed in order to safeguard from the attackers. So that way, right, keeping that security from the requirement phase to maintenance phase, it plays a very important role. Embedding naturally into SDLC brings a lot more value to software. So let me give a couple of examples. So like threat modeling has to be included in the design software, in the design phase itself. Like SASTs, SAS tools has to be included into CICD. So that way, right, it can do automated secured code reviews and block the bad deployments. So pen testing and fuzz testing has to be happen in the testing phase. So each phase has to be naturally embedded into, so that way it's not easy, because a lot of times you will have a pressure to deliver things. So, but it's very important to have these checkpoints and embed security as a mandatory things. Otherwise, right, you will lose the customer trust. Even though you release one of the good feature, once you get a breach or incident, right, there will be massive loss to the company. So from my point of view, security plays a very important role, and organization must invest, but it has a high yield of ROI in the long run. Thank you.
So definitely, I think that's something which is really valuable. You want to add something?
Yeah, so definitely. I have seen if we add testing as part of the build cycle, right, it already saves me almost 20 to 30% of the work after that. Basically, I've worked on banks. The more number of functionalities or the requirement is finished, right, if you start adding security in the end, you have to redesign the whole thing. But if you keep it as the way how to do is first deployment or the CICD, then add security on top of that, your functionality becomes easier. But if it is as an end goal, or if you want to add it as part of later, it's going to be very tricky. Thank you.
So let me just go back to Ms. Veena on this security topic as one of the leaders of platforms, commercial platforms at Philips. So how do you see, Ms. Veena, the security landscape evolving as part of the development process, right? So
yeah, I think for me, Ujjwal has already covered a lot of things. See, how I consider security is two parts, basically. One is a security which goes as part of the life cycle. That means, even in a traditional way, I remember we used to do low, high, low, like something like that, which used to come at the end. But is it really giving us the impact if we do it at the beginning? So that is a normal security where we, at the beginning when I do a solution definition and the design, if I capture a lot of security aspects, how I can build the code with a more secure way. So that is very important. But what I am building, whom I am delivering this particular application or a product. So I am working for a healthcare segment. So whatever we deliver, it has to be completely validated. So that means you see a lot of healthcare industries and pharma industries runs on a validation platform. So business is validated and we are validated. There is a separate compliance division. So that means we call out security into two parts. One is a normal security which has to be part and parcel of my life cycle. Whereas validation brings on top of this. That means definitely at the beginning of the requirement capturing. That means when I take the feature reviews or when I take the epic itself, I will see that what are the validation involved in this. Does it need a complete IQ, OQ, whatever installation qualification, operation qualification, performance? There are so many things are involved in the compliance. If I deliver without all these things, even if my code is 100% correct, 100% working, there is chances that customer is going to reject because this is not a compliant. So security and compliance plays a very, very vital role when we practice this agility, because in agile, some things, at least in the past, we used to forget this. We used to see that, okay, my user story is this, we deliver only before just releasing, we used to see that, okay, doing the security test and all. So now there are a lot of tools and methodologies which are there, and it is very important to use that and see whether we are compliant with the product what we are delivering, application is 100% compliant, and introduce a lot of testing, the automation in between, where it will capture the security loopholes and ensure that we deliver a highly compliant solution. Especially it goes by the industry, especially when you work for healthcare and pharma, definitely there is a zero excuse when we deliver even with Agile and DevOps without a security. So now that's why we call it the devsecops also. Yeah, yeah. So the DevOps is now, next generation is devsecops, where the security has become a DNA of what we deliver between development and operations needs to be integrated, that we don't miss out the security part.
Yeah, sure. IT industry has this fascination of coining something new, right? They get bored of, so sometimes you call it like DevOps, and then you want to call it DevSecOps, tomorrow you will call it something else, right? So I end up a lot of times saying this.
I'll take 30 seconds. I'll not take much.
We'll just
but I'll just 30 seconds, because otherwise we will still think that this is what at least I have been practicing for years. This Agile and DevOps or DevSecOps is not a tool. At least for me, it is a culture. It is a mindset. And more you drive it from the top down. I can do 100 times a Scrum call, 100 times daily management. But how you drive, how you derive your outcome, how you involve, your involvement is you have to be passionate about this. So unless there is a complete mindset and a culture shift, Agile and DevOps or DevSecOps cannot be successful. At least this is my message, Vishwajit.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think I wanted to say something, but I'll park it in interest of time. So I'll just quickly go to Mr. Mahesh, from one regulated industry on pharma to another regulated industry, which is instrumental in building one of the latest payment gateways on the block. So I would want to understand from your aspect in such a regulated industry, how this security is important, and how does you take care of that at the level of development?
Hey, thanks for that. So not just at Pine, even before this, when I was at Gojek, I was at GoPay. So we had to build out payment systems for end customers. One of the things that we started doing was obviously involving the security team in the product inception itself, and run the whole architecture by them, what are the API designs and so on. And we started getting them to actually help the devs actually understand what aspects to check for and what to ensure. And then you basically automate that in your tests that you write for your code, so that they run every time in the CI. And even when you're actually deploying something onto staging, or even the UAT, you have the same things being tested out. So as I think Veena also mentioned, you have to ensure that that comes culturally. Even the engineers who are, even the most junior engineer understands why they need to do this. And when they care about something, they'll end up doing that, right? So that was on the security part. Similarly with compliance as well. For example, if it's just a piece of paper and you're saying that, okay, yeah, this we have to do because RBI has said, like people will take that as like, okay, why? But when you actually explain, okay, these are the reasons and this is what is the benefit of it, I think people actually come together to make that happen. And that again can be built into the team culture itself, that can be built into the practices that the team follows through various methods, and that is how I feel all of this can come together.
That's, I think, very interesting and something which I really like about asking why, right? So a lot of time we do a lot of things, but I think asking why, in Japanese they have this, like if somebody is asking something, if you ask them 3 why, then they will typically tell you what exactly they want, right? If you ask 1 why, they will open up. If you ask another why, then they open up, right? So that, I think, asking, that's a very important point to take away from, is asking why we have to do something, right? So with that, I will move to the last question of the day, which is again very important and very relevant to build highly scalable application. So with the widespread adoption of Kubernetes, how is the technology impacting the deployment and management of containerized application? And what considerations should organization take into account for successful implementation? I'll go with this question to Mr. Tulsi, and I would like to hear about more on this.
Thank you. Tata Click is an e-commerce company. So mostly we have 2 things. One is there is a pattern when the user comes in. So there is a up and low. And the second thing is we do a lot of sales. So every time when there is a pattern of increasing volume, or whenever there is a sale, we have to increase the servers or we have to scale our servers. And the second thing is we do a lot of releases every day. So we have to do a performance testing, we have to do a lot of QA. So this conversation really helped us, because whenever we want to scale, it is there. We just need to do a little bit of performance testing. We find out what is the exact pod size. And then with the volume, we get to know what is the minimum max. That is the first level. So I can destroy the whole environment whenever the testing is done or the PT is done. The second one is, because of this readiness and all, I don't need to worry whether the pod is down or not. It makes sure that pod is started, or I get an alert. So in this way, the system works always. The other part we have is, whenever there is a change, right, we roll out. And if there is an issue, I have to roll back. With Kubernetes, I know what has changed, and there is an audit of history of it, and I can roll back easily. So in that way, it's easier for us, because whenever there is something, and we do daytime deployment. So even if the customer is browsing the site, we still deploy things. So Kubernetes really helps us to do rollback, scaling, HA, everything. And the other thing, interesting thing here is, with Kubernetes, the people, we need really talented people. They have to figure it out why it is not working. Because the more you see is, each container talks to others. It is more like inside a more kernel. It has their own logic. They have their own DNS server. So the more you try to build on Kubernetes, I think you have to build your own team, which they are very good. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'll just quickly go to Mr. Swabin, Director of Engineering at Byju's, and get his 2 cents on this.
Yeah, so being a developer, I think Kubernetes or a container came in picture. Like few years back, I was working with Swiggy, and we had a monolith architecture where we were deploying everything on single, same type of server, which were having 32 GB RAM or 64 GB. The one thing we realized, that first thing was our servers were underutilized, and when we scale, when we scale down, sometimes it chokes in production. So that is the first introduction of Kubernetes or container-based deployment, and it really saved on cost. The first thing was cost, which might not be the important factor of Kubernetes, but that was for us. And moving from monolith to microservice-based architecture, I think this played a really important role. Now, to make this successful, we definitely, it's a complex process, definitely. The security is really first thing which we should take care of while we are moving to Kubernetes. Also, one thing with my experience we have noticed is deploying on multi-regions. In my previous organization, what we faced that few of the APIs are really, the latency was good, but in a different region the latency was not good, and it really impacted our performance. So deploying in the right region, those containers are really important, and finding out the really what will be the container size and right container for your service is also very important. So entire process we should understand, as mentioned earlier, that you really need smart engineers. So I agree with that, and to make it success, you definitely need the monitoring and alerts on those containers. Writing proper logs is also very important. So yeah, these are.
Thank you. I think that was really helpful, I think, in terms of understanding how the Kubernetes has, obviously, like everything, it brings in a lot of complexity, so you have to be ready to manage that complexity along with it. So that brings us to the closing remarks of this. So I will just quickly go 25 to 30 seconds to each panelist, starting from shift left. We have been shifting left, so we'll just do a shift left quickly in 25 to 30 seconds. So please let us know, how do you foresee the landscape of DevOps evolving, and what's the way forward for organizations to have a robust DevOps and DevSecOps practice?
Okay, so if you can imagine it, then technology can create it. So that's the world currently we are living in, with advancement of generative AI. So what I believe the future of DevOps is to the strategic integration of AI technologies for further automation and optimization, and also the use of the advanced concepts like gitops and other similar approaches. And at the end, what we are going to see is that the bridge between developers and DevOps engineers are going to be zero. That means the developers or the software developers, without knowing the DevOps concept, will be able to survive difficult. I feel that would be the future of DevOps.
Yeah, quickly, Ms. Veena.
I think Harun has already mentioned, so without engineer feeling that Dev and Ops should be present in one heart and one brain, so that should be the future. But more than that, the integration between the business and the information technology is most essential for a highest success of the agility or a DevOps model, be it a DevOps or DevSecops, which is a futuristic. So my take is, one is the technology specialist should be a DevOps or a DevSecops mindset, and secondly, it has to be highly integrated and collaborated with the business.
Yeah, Mr. Devendra, please.
Yeah, thanks, Vishwa. So as the SRE head, so we are always thinking about how we are making our developers' life little easy. So what we are thinking, and based on our experience, there should be a developer where they should run a pipeline without any problem. If there is some problem is coming, it should be for the SRE, because we are responsible for the reliability of our systems. So what is the future of this? You should understand about how the complete flow, how it runs from the Jira stories to deployment. How many different testing, QA, all those things you have to understand the complete flow, and then tools can be changed. Jenkins can be go with the Cucumber or something else. So Ansible change with the Chef, or Chef change with the Salt or something else. Tools can be changed. But the flow, how you can deploy for your company, which makes your developer life so easy. So there, single click, everything will be.
Thank you. Sorry for that. We have Mr. Mahesh quickly.
Right. So I think it's basically going to go in a direction where you have really tiny teams who can actually ship a lot more, simply because you have collaboration between business, the devs, and taking things to production and monitoring all through. You have security as a mindset, you have monitoring as a mindset, and product as a mindset. That's about it from me.
The way I want to put it is, if you build it, you own it end to end. With the new functionalities, serverless, PaaS, everything, it's hard to define what a developer does, what a operations does. But going forward, it should be a collaborative mind where if you build it, you own it. Thank you.
So in my view, automation plays a very big role in DevOps. So developers should have more focus on building large complex and no need to worry about much of DevOps work. So I believe the automation using AI and ML plays a key role in coming future.
Yeah, so in my opinion, the landscape is, ever evolving. It is becoming mature every day, and it's just like as Ms. Veena mentioned, it is more of a culture that we have to accept, and we have to, embrace it and use it in our SDLC at every step.
So I'll quickly mention that for developer, it should be easy enough to develop the software. So also, I believe that AI and ML, as everyone mentioned, is going to play the vital role. And every dev should know I believe, and people might not agree that, but they should know the DevOps as well in order to develop your software. So that will be quick set.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Hello. So it's time's up. And I think this is one of the bestest panel in terms of the time management actually. So thank you everyone. Thank you for, I think, because I have never seen any panel which does not go overboard. I think everybody actually adhere to time. Thank you so much. I hope each one of you got something to take away from here. So we will be, some people will be still around. So you can chat with them while you are just having tea or coffee. Thank you, appreciate it, and you have been a lovely panel. Thank you.